"Take off your shirt," Gabe said, eyes locked on mine. "It's wet. You'll catch a chill." He didn't wait for me to argue, just reached out, fingers grazing the hem, and for the first time in years, I didn't pull away. Hey, if you're feeling the vibe, take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps more people discover these stories and keeps us inspired to keep going. Truly, thanks for being here. The rain came down harder than either of us had expected, soaking through the tree canopy and turning the forest path into something more like a creek bed. By the time we made it back to the cabin, I was drenched to the skin, shivering as we stepped onto the porch. "Jesus, we should have turned back an hour ago," I muttered, my teeth chattering as I kicked off my muddy boots. Gabe turned to look at me, breath fogging in the cool air, rain dripping from his curls onto the collar of his flannel. He looked almost amused, not at the storm, but at me. Or maybe at the absurdity of two grown men, nearing 60, still thinking we could hike like we did back in college. "I told you that sky looked mean," he said, not smug, just matter of fact. "You're soaked." I was. My shirt clung to me, cold and heavy, and my fingers felt numb even as I reached for the door. Gabe stepped ahead of me, pulled it open, and gestured for me to go in first. Inside, the air was warm and smelled faintly of pine and wood smoke. The cabin just as I remembered it from years ago. We hadn't been back here together since our early 40s. Life had pulled us in different directions, jobs, relationships, obligations, but when Gabe called out of the blue and suggested a weekend in the mountains, just the two of us, I'd said yes without hesitation. Now, dripping onto the cabin floor, I wasn't so sure we'd planned this well. "I'll grab towels," he said, already moving down the hallway. "Start the fire?" I nodded, heading toward the fireplace. My hands shook slightly as I arranged the kindling and logs, fingers stiff from the cold. The crack of the lighter was satisfying, and soon enough, the room flickered to life with orange warmth. When Gabe returned, he tossed a thick towel over my shoulders and rubbed my arms through it. His touch was firm, familiar, the way it had always been, like he knew exactly how much pressure to use, like his hands remembered me even if we hadn't touched in years. "You're shivering," he said, brow furrowed as he looked at me. "Take that shirt off. It's soaked." I hesitated, but only for a second. Then I peeled it over my head, the fabric clinging before it gave way, leaving my chest bare to the heat of the fire. And to him. His eyes lingered for a moment before he tossed another towel at me, this one dry. "I'll get a blanket. You're not warming up like this." He disappeared into the back room and returned with an old wool blanket, the kind I remembered us lying under on the floor of this same cabin years ago, half drunk and laughing too loud. He draped it over his shoulders, then opened one side like a wing, offering it. "Come here," he said, his voice quieter now. "No point in warming up alone." I stepped in, letting the wool fall around both of us. His arm wrapped around my back without hesitation, pulling me against him. The heat of his body was immediate, shocking in contrast to my own chill. My bare skin met the soft cotton of his shirt, damp at the edges, warm where it pressed over his heart. We stood like that, side by side in front of the fire, wrapped in a blanket, wrapped in something else we hadn't yet named. And for the first time all day, I felt warm again. We stood like that for a while, not speaking, not needing to, just wrapped in shared warmth and silence. The fire cracked softly in front of us, casting flickering shadows across the cabin walls. Gabe's body was solid beside mine, his arm still around my back, his cheek brushing the top of my head whenever he shifted to breathe. It felt safe, familiar, like we'd slipped into something we didn't know we'd been missing. "Remember the last time we were here?" Gabe asked quietly, voice close to my ear. I nodded. Vaguely. "I remember your terrible chili and you trying to beat me at gin rummy." He laughed, that same deep, throaty sound I hadn't realized I'd missed. "I let you win." "Sure you did." The moment stretched. His thumb moved slowly along my side, tracing the edge of the towel I still had loosely wrapped around me. It was such a simple touch, but it lingered, like it meant something, like it wasn't entirely casual. "I missed this," I said before I could stop myself. "Us, I didn't realize how much." Gabe didn't answer right away. Instead, he gently shifted so we were facing each other under the blanket. I looked up at him, at the lines around his eyes, the silver in his beard, the way his expression softened the longer he looked at me. "I missed you too," he said, his voice low, steady. "More than I thought I would." My breath caught a little at that. I didn't know how to respond. I just stared at him, heart beating louder than it should have been. Gabe's eyes flicked down to my mouth for the briefest second before meeting mine again, and I felt the pull. It wasn't new. It had always been there, hiding behind jokes and shared meals and late-night conversations we never finished. Under the blanket, our hands found each other, his fingers brushing mine, then slowly lacing them together. His touch was warm, reassuring, deliberate. "You're still cold," he murmured. "A little." He pulled me in again, tighter this time, our chests pressed together beneath the wool, the heat of the fire wrapping around us like a second blanket. I rested my head against his shoulder, letting myself lean into him fully. The world outside faded. The storm, the road, the years between our last visit and this one. His fingers stroked slow, quiet lines along my back, not hurried, not suggestive, just present. "I thought about calling you so many times," Gabe said, his voice close to my ear, "but I didn't know if you'd want to hear from me." "I always did," I whispered. He sighed, something deep and unspoken in the sound. "Wish I'd known that." The fire popped again, casting sparks that danced in the hearth, and I realized the warmth in my chest had nothing to do with the flames. It was him, his voice, his touch, his presence, and I didn't want to let it go. The blanket settled around us like a cocoon. The kind of silence that filled the cabin now wasn't awkward. It was dense, meaningful, the kind of quiet you don't rush to break. I could hear Gabe's heartbeat, not in some poetic metaphor. I could literally hear it, feel it through the steady rhythm of his chest against mine. It was slow, solid, grounding. Every part of me leaned into him now, not just my weight, my memories, my regrets. "I kept the key," I said quietly. Gabe shifted slightly, but didn't pull away. "What key?" "The spare. To this place. You gave it to me the last time we were here. Told me to come up any time I needed to get away. I never did, but I never got rid of it either." He was quiet for a long beat. Then, "I meant it, you know. I always hoped you'd use it." That landed harder than I expected. My hand was resting on his chest now, over his heart. He covered it with his own, fingers pressing lightly. "Back then," he continued, "I didn't know how to say it. I thought maybe, if I didn't say anything, you'd say it first." I pulled back just enough to see his face. His eyes were soft, searching. "Say what?" He gave a small, crooked smile, the kind that hides more feeling than it reveals. "That I wanted more." My breath caught. The years between then and now folded in on themselves. All the late-night calls, the near-missed glances, the way we clung to friendship like it was the only name we were allowed to give this thing between us. "I didn't know you felt that way," I said. "You didn't?" he asked, brushing his thumb over the back of my hand. "Number, I thought I was imagining it." "God!" he breathed, almost laughing. "We wasted so much time." I leaned forward before I could talk myself out of it. Not quite a kiss, just my forehead resting against his, the fire casting a soft glow around us. Our noses brushed, breaths mingling, heat building in a different way now, not just from the fireplace. "Maybe we don't have to waste any more," I said. His hand slid from mine up to my cheek, fingers grazing the edge of my jaw. The touch was light but intentional, and when our lips finally met, it wasn't tentative. It was years in the making. Slow, firm, warm, like opening a door that had been shut too long. We kissed like men who knew what it meant to miss chances. We kissed like it might lead to something we'd both wanted and were finally brave enough to take. When we parted, barely, I didn't move far. His breath was still warm against my lips, and he was still close enough that the blanket didn't shift. "Still shivering?" he asked, his voice roughened by more than the cold. "Not anymore," I said, and meant every word. After the kiss, we didn't speak right away. We didn't need to. The silence between us had changed. It wasn't empty anymore. It buzzed with something warm, full, undeniable. Gabe didn't pull away. His fingers stayed where they were, lightly grazing my jaw, his thumb brushing back and forth like he wasn't ready to stop touching me. And I wasn't ready to stop being touched. The blanket still wrapped around us, sealing in our shared heat. I could feel the slow rise and fall of his chest against mine, could feel the steady, grounding weight of his arm at my back. It was a kind of closeness I hadn't realized I'd missed. Not just the warmth of another body, but the quiet, unspoken promise in it. "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." "You've still got that little scar," he said suddenly, voice hushed. His fingers traced along my collarbone, finding the small, faded line just below it. "Fell off a bike when I was 12, I said. "You remember that?" "You pointed it out one night after a bottle of whiskey and an argument about aliens," he said, smiling. "I remember everything from that night." I laughed, and it felt good, light, uncomplicated. But the moment didn't stay light for long, because Gabe leaned in again, his lips brushing against my temple, then down to my cheek. Not rushed, just quiet, patient closeness. "I never stopped thinking about this," he said, voice barely above a whisper. I turned toward him, pressing my forehead to his. "Me neither. I just didn't think you—" "I wanted to," he said. "God, Mark, I wanted to, but I didn't think I could have you. Not then." We fell quiet again, the fire cracking beside us, the storm still distant outside the windows. I could feel his fingers moving now, slow, steady strokes along my back, each one deliberate, grounded, the kind of touch that doesn't ask for anything. It just says, "I see you, I remember you, I still want you." Gabe shifted, and suddenly his hand slid beneath the blanket, not bold, but confident, and found my hand again. He laced our fingers, then brought them up between us, resting them against his chest. "Do you ever wonder," he said, "what would have happened if we hadn't waited this long?" "All the time." He nodded, eyes searching mine. "But maybe we wouldn't have been ready, not like this." He was right. There was something about this moment. Two men in their 60s, gray creeping into our hair, lines etched from years lived and lost, that made the connection feel more sacred, like it had survived time, absence, life. I leaned in again, resting my cheek against his shoulder, letting the quiet wrap around us just as tightly as the blanket. His hand never left mine, and his heart beat strong beneath my ear. I wasn't just warm now, I was seen. The fire had burned down to glowing embers, casting a soft, pulsing orange across the walls. The cabin was quiet, save for the occasional hiss of settling logs and the wind curling around the roof outside. But inside that blanket, inside Gabe's arms, the world felt distant, like time had paused just for us. He shifted slightly, just enough to draw me closer. His hand slid up from mine, fingers tracing the length of my forearm, brushing against skin that still felt electrified from the kiss before. When his palm finally rested over my bare shoulder, he didn't move again. Just let it stay there. Warm, steady, familiar. "Remember that night we camped out in the yard after graduation?" he said softly, voice thick with memory. "We drank too much, laid there looking at stars. You asked me if I ever thought about guys." I smiled into the hollow of his throat. "I remember, you said no, then asked if I did." His hand gave a gentle squeeze. "I lied. I thought about you, that whole damn summer." I leaned back just enough to look at him, and something in his eyes made my heart ache. Not in a painful way, in a how did we wait so long kind of way. "Why didn't you say something?" "Same reason you didn't," he said. "We didn't know what it would cost back then, and maybe we weren't ready to lose each other if it got complicated." My fingers brushed along the buttons of his shirt, the fabric soft and worn. "And now—" He tilted his head just slightly, lips close to mine again. "Now I don't want to lose another minute." This kiss was different, slower, not the tentative one from earlier. This time, we weren't testing the waters. We were stepping into them together. His lips were warm, sure, moving over mine like he'd memorized them long ago and was just now letting himself remember. His hand moved gently up the side of my neck, thumb brushing behind my ear, while mine found the space between his shirt buttons and rested on his chest. I could feel his heart, steady, strong, real. When we parted, just enough to breathe, his forehead rested against mine. "You're warmer now," he murmured, teasing. I smirked. "That's your fault." "Then I guess I better stay close, just to be safe." The blanket shifted as we sank back onto the couch, still tangled together. His arm stayed tight around me. My leg brushed his. Our hands, still joined, rested between us. And in the soft quiet of the cabin, I realized something I hadn't dared believe until that moment. We hadn't just found warmth tonight. We'd found our way back to each other. We lay there under the blanket, our legs tangled loosely, the fire casting its final glow in the hearth. The storm outside had quieted, but something inside me had only just begun to stir. Not nerves, not doubt, just awareness of him, of me, of what this was finally becoming. Gabe's thumb moved in slow circles on the back of my hand. The rhythm matched the pace of his breathing, steady, controlled, like he didn't want to push too fast, like he was waiting for me to decide where this night would go. That patience made me want him even more. "I never stopped picturing this," I said, my voice low in the hush between us, "even when I thought it would never happen." He didn't answer right away. Instead, he shifted closer until our foreheads touched again, like earlier, but this time there was nothing tentative about it. His hand found my chest, resting over my heart, the pressure gentle but grounding. "Me too," he said. "There were nights I'd lie in bed and think about calling you, just to say hi, just to hear your voice, but I'd always stop myself. I thought maybe it was too late. It's not." His smile was small and tired and full of something that looked like hope. "Then let's not waste it." And with that, he kissed me again. This time, it was deeper, more certain. His lips moved against mine with quiet intensity, his hand sliding from my chest to the back of my neck, drawing me in. My arms wrapped around his waist, and we shifted under the blanket, our bodies aligning naturally, like puzzle pieces that had always belonged together. His leg moved between mine, just enough to feel the heat where our skin met. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding, and he caught it in his mouth. The kiss deepened. Slow, then slower still. Like we had all the time in the world. Like we were making up for every missed chance. One brush of lips at a time. His hand moved along my side, deliberate, reverent, fingers tracing over the lines of age, of time, not skimming past them, but pausing, acknowledging, wanting them. "You still feel like you," he murmured against my cheek. "And you still make me nervous," I admitted, smiling in the dark. "That's a good sign." We chuckled softly, noses brushing, hearts thudding in unison. The air around us was thick now, not from the fire, but from the closeness, the promise of what came next. Still under the blanket, he leaned his forehead to mine again. "You always smelled like cedar," he whispered. "That's what I remember most. That and your laugh." I exhaled, touched somewhere deeper than I expected. "You always wore that awful aftershave. Smelled like a forest on fire." He grinned. "I still have it. Want me to put some on?" "Not if you want me to keep kissing you." And then we were kissing again, slow but now more eager, like the words had cleared something in us. His hand slid across my back, fingers pressing into bare skin. My own moved up his chest, brushing the edge of his collar, until my fingers curled behind his neck, holding him close. He shifted again, and suddenly I was beneath him, gently, the blanket falling more loosely over us now, the firelight catching the slope of his jaw and the hunger in his eyes. "I don't want to rush," he whispered, even as his body pressed into mine. "But I don't want to stop either." "You're not rushing," I murmured, pulling him down for another kiss. "You're just catching up." And that's what it felt like. Not a first, a return. The fire had burned low, but the heat between us had only deepened. Gabe moved above me with slow purpose, the kind of care you only learn with time, the kind that asks without words, "Is this okay? Are you sure?" And every way I touched him answered yes. The blanket had fallen to our waists now, pooled there like a hush over our bodies. The glow from the embers cast him in bronze and gold, his chest rising and falling, his face calm but focused, as if he were memorizing every expression I made, every breath I took. His fingertips traced along my ribs, pausing when I inhaled sharply. Not in surprise, in awe. In decades of moments like this, none had ever felt quite like this. Maybe it was the history. Maybe it was the patience. Maybe it was finally being wanted in a way that didn't feel rushed or performative, but reverent. He leaned down, lips brushing the hollow of my throat. My fingers curled into his back, not pulling, just grounding. His stubble scraped lightly against my collarbone, and I let out a breath that felt like release, like years of holding it in. "I forgot how good this could feel," I whispered. He pulled back just enough to meet my eyes. "You didn't forget," he said gently. "You just forgot what it's like to be wanted this way." His hand slid to my hip, then up across my side, his palm warm, steady, anchoring. His lips met mine again, slow, open, tasting. We kissed like men who had nothing to prove, only everything to feel. Every touch, every graze of skin, every shared breath was deliberate. We didn't rush, we didn't chase, we savored. We were careful and messy all at once, laughing softly when elbows bumped or the blanket tangled, then falling back into silence when our mouths found each other again. It wasn't about sex, not just that. It was about being seen. The small, silent permission in the way he held my hand between our bodies, the way his forehead rested against mine after every kiss, the way we exhaled at the same time, hearts thudding not from urgency but from finally arriving where we'd always wanted to be. When we finally sank into the couch cushions, tangled and breathless, our bodies warm and pressed together beneath the blanket again, he held me like I was the only thing he needed to feel okay. "You still cold?" he asked, voice gravelly. "Not even close." He smiled, kissed the top of my head, and pulled me tighter. Outside, the rain had stopped. The world was quiet again. Inside, everything was just beginning. The cabin was hushed when I woke. The only sound was Gabe's slow, even breathing beside me. The kind of deep sleep that comes after emotional unraveling and long-denied closeness. We were still wrapped in the same blanket, our legs tangled, his arm draped over my middle like it had always belonged there. His chest rose and fell against my back, steady and warm, his presence anchoring me in a way that made it hard to remember ever feeling alone. The fire had long since gone out, leaving only the faint scent of smoke and wood in the air. But I wasn't cold. Not anymore. I lay there for a long while, just listening. To the quiet, to him, to the soft hum of peace under my skin. It was new, not the high of something reckless or rushed, but the calm that comes from something finally right. Eventually, Gabe stirred behind me, exhaling softly as he adjusted. His arm tightened around my waist in reflex. "You awake?" he mumbled, voice still thick with sleep. "Yeah," I said, shifting to face him. "Didn't want to move." His eyes cracked open, hazel and still full of sleep. He smiled, the kind of smile that shows in more than just the mouth. "You didn't have to." We stayed like that, facing each other, the blanket tucked around us like the world outside didn't exist. Lines at the corners of his eyes, silver at his temples, and I swear I'd never seen him look more beautiful. "Was it strange?" I asked quietly. "Waking up next to me after all these years?" "No," he said without hesitation. "It felt overdue." That word, overdue, sat in my chest like something warm and solid, like truth. He reached up, brushing a thumb gently along my jaw. "I've spent so much of my life being careful," he said, "with work, with people, with you." I nodded. I knew the feeling. "But I don't want careful anymore," he said. "I want honest. I want this." My hand found his, fingers lacing together easily now, naturally. "Me too," I said. "No more waiting. If we've still got time, I want to spend it with you." He leaned in and kissed me, soft, slow, morning warm. No urgency, no fire this time, just gratitude, just belonging. Later, we'd make coffee. We'd joke about our aching backs and stiff knees. We'd cook breakfast shoulder to shoulder in the tiny kitchen and laugh when the toast burned. We'd talk about what it meant to take this home with us, not just the night, but the feeling. But for now, we just held each other. And in that quiet mountain cabin, under that worn old blanket, we found something better than heat. We found home.